What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. We have a very special guest zooming all the way in from Nashville. And yes, it's nice there, unlike here in the Chicagoland area. Please welcome Monica Snyder. She is on a mission to end businesses that are really jobs in disguise. Monica, I've had a great conversation with you so far. Please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. I'm Monica Snyder, and I am actually a software developer. I've been coding for 35 years, since I was 8 years old. And I worked in corporate America, and I was building all these amazing systems that made millions of dollars for these huge companies. And one day I really wanted to go to Oktoberfest in Germany, right? And I was living in Los Angeles, and I really wanted to go to Oktoberfest. And I looked up, and I only had 1 day of vacation. And I was like, ooh, okay, so, it's not like, it's just social media. I can't pretend to be sick and fly across the world. So I ended up flying across the world for 2 days and coming back. It was insane. And then I was like, this has got to end. Like, they have too much control over my time. And so I figured out that it was time to leave. And I left, and I was like, I make all this money for these other people, and I can figure out how to replace my 6-figure developer salary, because developers are very well paid. Sure. As they should be. But so then I did that, and guess what? It worked beautifully. No, I'm kidding. It was so bad. It was so bad. But then eventually I did figure it out. I figured out marketing and sales. And so, because I had to, and then I figured out business stuff, and now I run a successful business, and I help other people do the same.
That's fantastic. So you didn't just like succeed right out of the gates.
No, not even close. Like, no, I partnered with, so when I left corporate, I partnered with 2 other people. One was my best friend at the time, and then somebody she had partnered with. So I came into that business. We are still best friends. No worries.
Good. That's good. That can ruin people. That can ruin relationships.
It can. And luckily, our friendship has stood the test of time. She's amazing. She's actually off building her own different company now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she's fantastic, but that went really bad. And then I was actually living in my aunt's house, and I couldn't pay the rent. I went from a nice developer salary to not being able to pay the rent. And a friend from high school knocked on the door to serve me papers from my credit card company, because they were suing me. So I couldn't pay them either. Yeah. And so it was so embarrassing, because I answered the door looking like a complete bum. Because I and here's my friend from high school. And this was years later. I was like, I am too old for this. So yeah. I pulled myself together, went back to corporate with a consulting gig, just because I knew, and then figured the rest of it out, but that was my turning point. I was like, okay, this is not okay.
But that's very inspiring, though. I think a lot of people, people that are out there that might have this idea of being an entrepreneur, and that's a completely different, you go from complete security to no security at all, and you hit rock bottom, but you picked yourself back up, and now you're thriving. And I think that some people have this idea that, oh, entrepreneurship is so great, that you have all this freedom, blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's true, but you also have all the risk. And then other people are so afraid of that risk that they don't ever go off and try to do anything that they might want to have always done. So you've faced it all, and now you are thriving and successful and amazing. I love the story here where you said you were living the laptop lifestyle, and you did a software launch, and you were in a hostel in New Zealand. Talk about that a little bit, because that's really cool.
Yeah. So after I had picked myself up, moved to Los Angeles for a corporate consulting gig that took very little of my brain power, so I could work on my stuff at night. That was intentional, and I want people to know, some people are like, oh, well, then, you didn't cut it. I'm like, no, I went and found revenue to fuel my money, to fuel my dreams, right? I used other people's capital, they were using my brain, but they were paying me for my brain, part of it, because it was such a mind numbing.
You're awesome.
But I was like, I have to eat, I have to pay things. Yeah. And then, by the way, I did completely pay my aunt back all the past rent, all the stuff got caught up. I paid off all the bills, got completely debt free, which was a big deal for me.
Hell yeah. I need to do that. To teach me.
You know what? It's hard work. I'm not going to lie. It's super hard work. And, but I will give you one tool that was incredibly helpful. It's called younedabudget.com. It's YNAB. Their system just really resonated with me, and I actually still use it to this day. So, I've been using it for, years and years now. So as long as they've been around, basically. Anyway, I didn't mean to like plug that software, but they're
No,
so
that's
good.
all right.
It's
That's
like
cool.
super cheap.
Yeah.
It's like $5 a month or something. Um, anyway, so yeah, so that's how I got debt free. But in the meantime, I was like single and living in Los Angeles and like having, so much fun doing that. And obviously I like to travel because that's what got me out of corporate. And so I was like, I want to go to New Zealand and Australia. I've always wanted to go there. And so I took off by myself because none of my friends from corporate could go,
Yeah.
right? Which was
Right. Yeah.
the trade-off. And so I was down there and I was working with my business partner at the time. And I built software for him with him, and he would do the promotion, the marketing. And so by the time the marketing comes around, like it's time for me, my part's done, right? The software is built, it's ready to go. So I had built it. I had checked everything that morning as the launch kicked off. We sent the email, launch kicked off, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go bungee jumping now. So I went bungee jumping and I did the big canyon swing and it was so much fun. And when I got back, I logged on to see how things were going and we had 5 figures. And I was like,
Wow. That's
I like
amazing.
this.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Holy cow. Yeah. So we all want to figure out how to do that. So why don't you tell us what you do now, Monica, with ending businesses that are really jobs in disguise?
Yes. So what happens when we become entrepreneurs, we normally start with trading our time for money, right? So you start as a consultant or a coach or you start like an agency, something like that, where you have skills. So say you have skills in sales, right? So you may say, okay, well, I'm going to go coach sales departments or consult sales departments of big companies on how to land huge deals. And you go find some clients, given your network. And that's generally how a lot of people leave corporate and start.
Sure.
But all you've done really is raised your rates. But you've also raised your taxes. You've also raised all your costs. Like you got to pay for a lot on your own then. And so I think that a lot of people don't realize that. And then they get stuck there because then it's like they do realize that. And then they don't know
Yeah.
how to systemize anything because they were always in another business that had the systems built for them.
Right.
Right. And so then I also, when I was 16, I worked at McDonald's. And McDonald's is like the king of systems, right? And so if you start to think of your business like McDonald's, like they have the same hamburger, the same French fries all over the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do they do that? They do that with systems and delivery of those systems. So this is that my real genius is systems. And so that's what you have to figure out. You're like, okay, well, if I'm going to teach people how to do sales, okay, what is my signature system? What is it that's different about what I do that gets me better results than other people? And then you put that together. And now we live in a world where you can package that up as like a course, an e-learning course, and you can sell it with automated systems called sales funnels. So you automate it.
You do? So that's what you
What?
do for people?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. So I build these systems for people that are packaging up their knowledge and selling it to other people who want that knowledge. And I make sure that they have the right people to sell it to so that they know, because not everybody is a right fit for your knowledge, but you definitely have some knowledge that other people need. But the key point is that you systemize it and like you package it up, and put it out there like that, because otherwise you're still telling people with your voice instead of telling them with a video, which is infinitely scalable.
Yeah, this is very true. I love that. And actually, I recorded with a man yesterday who wrote a book called Buyable, and he was an investment banker, and he did it for over 12 years. And he actually told a story about one person who was able to, was very attractive to sell versus someone who was not. So the people that were really attractive to sell had put all the systems in place so that when they went to sell their business, all they had to do was turn over the keys within 2 weeks. Whereas this person over here was generating a lot more income and had a higher profit margin, but they had no systems in place. So that it was not as attractive to buy for an investor versus the other one where they had everything in place. So I thought that was very interesting. So any of our entrepreneurs that are out there, this is, Monica would be someone that you might want to talk to about helping with those systems, because especially this day and age with how we're digital, technological, it's only going to get more in depth, more, more digital, what have you. So I think it's very, very important for business entrepreneurs to have that in place. What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Ho, 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 ladies. The holidays came early, not only for you, but for your man here at Manscaped, the leading men's hygiene brand. Manscaped just launched new products that your man will actually use, including their all-new ultra premium body wash and a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. Also, this awesome refined cologne. It smells so sexy. My man loves it. I love him wearing it, especially after he's all clean shaven, using the Lawnmower 4.0 and trimming those nasty nose hairs and those ear hairs. You know what I'm saying, ladies? It's time to give the man in your life the gift of beautiful skin, hair, and balls this holiday season. Go to manscaped.com and use the code LABELFREE20 for 20% off and free shipping. That's right, ladies, 20% off and free shipping with the code LABELFREE20 at manscaped.com.
Yes. And then you could take a vacation if your business is running without you, because that's the other thing is like we all get burnt out because we're trying to do too many things. So
yes, actually, and you talked about that. When you are an entrepreneur, you spend more time on your business than you would at your corporate job.
Oh, heck yes.
So your time is even more valuable. And, even with this podcast, I'm finding like my time is so valuable right now because I'm so invested in this. And I love talking to all these amazing people like yourself that I'm getting very, very picky as to where I spend my time and what I'm committing to, because no.
Exactly. And if you were trading your time for money, then I would say it's time to raise your rates so that you weed out those people that are not a great fit for you.
You're awesome. Okay. Here, I like this question. I'm gonna defer to some of your questions here. How to automate business systems so you can gain balance or do other things. So how do you do that?
Yes. So the way that I do that is that first we figure out what can and cannot be automated. Sure. Right. So if you are having a conversation with a client and you have this basically same conversation with all your clients, right? So, generally you get sort of this onboarding system going when you're working with clients or, consultants, because it's the same setup in the beginning, right? So whatever you're saying over and over, or you're doing over and over, that is the pattern that can be systemized. Okay. Not everything can be systemized. Or it can be, but you got to have another human involved sometimes. Sure. So you just figure out what those things are. And then you're like, okay, so what is one step of this that I could put in some sort of automation? So again, going back to that client example, if you are always saying the same things to your clients, what you might do is just record a video of like, hey, here's everything you need to know, and make like a worksheet or a form that they fill out on something like Woo Forms or Typeform or something like that. And then they get you that information. And then you no longer have to have the one-on-one conversation with them. Right. Right. And so that frees up a little bit of your time, maybe an hour per client. Right. And then you just keep adding those kinds of things. And then before you know it, like, you've got 10 hours a week that's all been automated. Yeah. Using, email and video and technology and sales pages and things like that. That's a really great tip. And I think people don't realize that there are so many resources out there to do that. And so someone like you that can actually introduce them to them is invaluable. So going off of that question, so what kind of businesses do you think can really benefit from that kind of automation? I think just about any business can. So let's take, for example, one of my best friends has a CrossFit gym, right? Oh, okay. So local business, you got to physically be there, right? So like, how could he use automation to free up some of his time? Well, there's several ways, but one that he actually just implemented with a huge success was email marketing to remind people of when their classes, when they signed up for a class, right? Because what was happening in his gym is that people were not showing up when they said that they would. Yeah. And so he just sent out an email, and then he added text messaging, and then people like think that he is a genius because they think it's really him messaging because like they don't understand tech at all. And so they're like, how are you messaging me every single time? It's my class time. Like they don't even realize that it's like an automated system that's tied in to when they signed up. Yeah. So something just as simple as that. So now his class rates are higher, but what happens then is the side effect of people show up and then they post it on social media. Oh, I'm at the gym. And then people see that, their friends see it, more people come in, and he gets more clients.
Yeah. No, I love the whole SMS text tool. I have not yet done that myself. I probably should, especially when I'm getting ready to release an episode. I think that would be great to drive more people, drive more eyes to my channel, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think so when I get those from some of the different businesses that I've like signed up for, I'm like, ooh, sale, and I'm still, so it's very, very powerful. I mean, I know just from a consumer standpoint that I love it. I'm like, just to get those like, oh, I get a 20% off sale today. Yeah, I'm buying that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's to me a distribution channel, right?
Yeah.
So in all businesses, you have a product and it has to get distributed, right? Distributed. I said that's sort of weird, but
That's all right. We
and so
understood.
right. So your email list. So if you ever talk to me, your customer list to me is the biggest asset in your business ever. So I always want you to have that list, be in a relationship with that list, like talking to them, like listening to them, giving them what they need, just like you would be in a relationship in real life. So one of the things I'm super big on is because, relationships stand the test of time, whereas marketing doesn't always.
Right.
And so, yeah, so that distribution channel of like them giving you their email or their phone number is like a big deal.
Sure.
That means they're invested in you as a brand and as a company. So get them all and send the messages.
I saw someone, because I'm into podcasting, I follow different people on LinkedIn, some, experts. And one of the pieces of advice that the expert said was, when you meet someone, to tell them about your podcast and just grab their phone and just subscribe for them. Or sign up for your email list. I'm like, I don't know if I could actually grab someone's phone and type that all in. I feel like that's a little intrusive, but
well, I mean, so, okay, I'm going to change your mind on this. Like, have you ever like handed somebody your phone to type their phone number in so that you didn't have to do it? Same concept. Just be like, oh, I know how to find it easy. You want me to do that for you? Like,
true.
You do this with your phone number, like totally do it with your podcast. That would be amazing. I mean, don't snatch their phone out of their hand. That's rude. But like, if we're talking and you're like,
I just see someone walking on the street. Here, give me your phone.
Right. I'm subscribing you to my podcast.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. So we kind of talked about this, but how do you build relationships and revenue with your audience?
Oh, yes. So one of my favorite topics. So you first act like a human being that is a generally human being that other human beings might like. Now, you got to find your own people, right? We all resonate with our tribe, right? That's not to say other tribes are bad. They're just not yours.
Yes.
And so you do that by being you authentically. And when you're doing that, you're actually building a personal brand. So it's a little bit different for a personal brand versus like, a big retailer brand, right?
Right.
And so, I talked about McDonald's, you've got a different relationship with them because it's not a human. But in a lot of these businesses that I work with, it's like authors and experts and, they're one human that you're building a relationship with. So when you email, you email like just text only. Like you don't want to have like a corporate style email because you are not that corporation yet. You may get there at some point, but you're not there yet. So, and then just tell them a little bit about you, but also the same thing you do in real life, you listen back. So in all my emails, not all of them, but most of them in the series or the sequence, at some point I will say, hit reply and talk to me. I say that a lot. And I actually read every email and I reply to it, which sometimes can get a little overwhelming. It's like I'm in the middle of something big, but it also lets them know I'm listening to them. And then I will make adjustments to things based on what they tell me, or I will make new products based on what they tell me, or I will basically, do what they tell me. And sometimes though I take like, I don't know if you've ever heard the saying where Henry Ford, when he was building the car, he said, people, if I'd asked them, they would have just told me faster horses.
Sure. Yeah.
So his job was to take faster horses and translate that into what they really meant, which was they want to get somewhere faster.
Yeah.
And he had a different solution to that than horses. Right. So that's your job as the entrepreneur. So like if your people are saying, I want bigger sales, right? Then you might say, okay, well, you want bigger sales because you want more revenue, right? But maybe what you really need is more profit margin. So we could talk about profit margin as well as increasing top line revenue.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how, and so that little mind shift, I just saw you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So like, that's how they're like, oh, you really get me and you understand my needs. And now I'm into you as well, because that's how you build the relationship. And then you get the revenue because you sell them that thing.
Yeah, you are incredibly intelligent. Wow, I'm just loving, you're dropping so many bombs of information and wisdom. What does it really take to go from 6 to 7 figures on in an online business? I really like this question. Yeah, and I think a lot of people out there are going to like the answer.
Yeah, so I did this in my previous business. I'm working on it in my current business, and I've helped clients do it. And you're not going to like the answer. It takes consistency, it takes knowing your message, and it takes planning in the form of budgeting and forecasting.
Yeah.
So that's what people, I find that like you can sort of get to the 500,000 mark relatively easy in the online space. Don't get me wrong, it's work. But, with the right systems and stuff, it's like, and then you find yourself there. And what I see in a lot of people is like, they're like, well, what's next? Because they literally have never seen it.
Yeah.
And what real companies do is plan using money,
right?
Using their resources. So capital, and, that's why it's called human resources. I don't really like that term, but that's why the term exists, right? Like, what resources do you have that can help you get to that next level, and how do you plan to use them?
Yeah. Oh, very good. Oh my gosh. You're dropping bombs of information. Where can an entrepreneur out there that's listening, where can they find you if they want to work with you and increase the size of their business?
Yes. Right now,
or streamline their business.
The best spot right now is monicasnyder.com.
Okay.
As I told you in the beginning, before I think we jumped on, my official, company, Birdsong, which is my maiden name, by the way.
Okay.
So if you ever see, like, all my handles are Monica Birdsong, because I've only been married 6 years. And I love being married.
That's long enough. I've been, that's long enough.
I mean, yeah, like, well, it's funny because a lot of my clients are like relationship coaches. So like I get the byproduct of like seeing all their stuff behind the scenes. Anyway, so monicasnyder.com is that. And then birdsong.co
awesome
is the company where the courses and the coaching and the consulting is.
And you're on LinkedIn as well. Are you under Monica Snyder or
Monica Snyder? Yes. Or birdsong.co.
Okay.
Both are up there. And if you search for Monica Birdsong, you will generally find me, because again, I was in this world for a long time under that name. And then it was funny because I actually like switched names and switched like into this, like my own business, like all kind of at the same time. So I did lose a little bit of audience there. So
all right. That's a major evolution. That's all right. You just evolved to another stage and different persona. And that we all go through that at a certain point, maybe multiple times. I know I've done it.
Heck yeah. Well, keep going. That's the hard part. Don't get stuck.
Oh, no. That's one thing that I'm always pushing forward. But before we wrap things up, Monica, do you have any last words or pieces of advice or wisdom for the audience?
Yes. And that is, if you want to achieve your dreams, you're just going to need courage and grit. And like, just keep those two things in mind as things get difficult, because they will get difficult, and you just got to keep going.
Yes.
And the most courageous thing to do sometimes is like the simplest, like just show up.
Yes. Boom. With that being said, Monica, you're awesome. I love your energy. You are fantastic. You can come back anytime. I do have a lot of coaches that are on here that I think that need to connect with you to grow their business. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.